Agony, huh? Yeah, it's a real agony to play this game. Seriously though, this game is terrible. It's that slower-paced first-person horror genre that was popularized by Penumbra, Amnesia, and now you see it everywhere. I haven't played too many of these kinds of games, but despite my limited experience, I think it's safe to say that this one is, by far, one of the absolute worst of the genre. It's got atmosphere and some cool scenery, but just about everything else with this game, especially the gameplay, is completely worthless. The story places the player as a lone soul at the gates of hell, with no memory of their past, and everyone around here seems to have an inexplicable obsession with a figure known as the Red Goddess, because she can allegedly lead the souls of the damned out of hell and back into the world of the living. The story and lore is actually pretty cool. It's very underplayed, with most of the plot being vague dialogue and descriptions, but the bigger picture does start to fill out in time. It's an interesting take on the Tower of Babel and the Whore of Babylon. Too bad the people behind this game were real Nimrods. Little biblical joke there? Yes? No? Maybe? Whatever. The first thing you'll notice is that this game is extremely dark. As in, I really can't see anything. And I balanced the gamma with the game's recommended settings, but it's almost impossible to find your way around. So forget it. Crank the brightness to max and leave it there. The gameplay, similar to other games of its ilk, revolves around finding keys to open doors while avoiding monsters and hazards. The puzzles here are a little weird, like using hearts to balance a scale which then opens a door, but you get used to it. You can walk vertically along walls in specific areas, you examine paintings which then opens new paths, etc, etc. It's just a little bit wacky. What I can compliment this game on as a standout feature is its level design. Several of the areas are very maze-like, if not literal mazes, and there are a lot of paths that circle around back to itself in unexpected ways. Very few areas look alike too, so it can be cool to get yourself lost and explore, searching for goodies and other little secrets. Oh, but don't you worry, getting lost will come naturally. I'm not trying to say that the game needs markers to point out exactly where the keys are, but it does a poor job at directing the player towards the next objective. On top of this, it's easy to assume that the large maze-like areas are supposed to get some use, but the vast majority of it is completely optional. Required items are often nearby and in plain sight, but can be very easy to miss. There's also this sigil drawing mechanic, but its implementation is a sick joke. Despite using the joystick, it's controlled digitally, so you might as well use the D-pad at that point. Worse yet, it's very difficult to tell if the sigil is even drawn properly in the first place, or if you're even using the right one. And you can only hold one sigil on you at a time. So you have to run around, look for a sigil, draw it a few times as best you can, and then look for another one when that one doesn't work. There's this one room early on that I just could not solve. It's not a big room either, but I ran around for over an hour and couldn't find the correct sigil. The developers must have known they messed up too, because this particular sigil segment is removed for the normal difficulty. Thankfully, you can just have the game tell you where to go. And although I didn't want to abuse this feature at first, I stopped caring about halfway through. I had to for the sake of my own sanity, but that's still not going to save you from the enemies who jump out around corners, all of which kill you in one shot. I really don't understand what's the point of having a health bar at all, or even upgrading your maximum health. The only real threats in this game are the ones that kill you instantly. You're supposed to be stealthy and hide around corners, and you can hold your breath so that monsters can't sense you. But I find it takes forever for enemies to leave, and it only seems to work half the time anyway. The only thing that does work consistently is throwing a torch in the opposite direction to distract enemies. If you do die, then your soul will leave your body, at which point you wander around and search for a new host to possess. This creative death and rebirth system is the most unique aspect about this game. Although you have to remove the hoods off of most humans before you can possess them, and you can only travel a very limited distance to find a suitable host. So, in practice, it works more like an extra life system before you run out of bodies and are forced back to a previous checkpoint. You can also possess demons, although this isn't unlocked until almost halfway through the game, and even then their eyesight is terrible, so it's not much fun anyway. I said before that the look of the game is great, and I do stand by that. The environments and enemies are creative and well designed. However, the rest of the presentation is awful. The voice acting is a complete joke and ruins any sort of immersion you could have had.
I should have killed you when I had the first chance. My whole family died. My family. I no longer remember. But you, I won't forget. You're gonna fry here. Give it to me, you son of the whore. What the fuck? No! No! I curse you, Amraphel! Ah! Be damned!
The main actress, who voices the Red Goddess, does an okay job, but everyone else sucks. Even worse are the cutscene animations. This stuff is downright embarrassing. In this scene, the main character is ambushed by the spider monsters, and they die immediately, so their soul leaves their body and goes to possess a nearby demon. The game has been setting up this particular scene for a while now, and it's supposed to be a big, powerful moment. Let's watch. Wow, you're kidding, right? I don't even care that this big demon couldn't kill 4 spiders. Like, that's stupid, but whatever. Just look at these punches and arm swings. This is absolute amateur hour. Here's another one from much later in the game. This huge demon grabs a flying whale by the tail and throws it against a wall. Even Mario throwing Bowser on the N64 had more impact behind it. This is all despite a very successful Kickstarter campaign, which raised well over double its goal. Let's see some of those stretch goals. Ah, VR mode, huh? How's that working out for you guys? Not at all? Fantastic. There are a couple of additional modes here worth noting. Succubus mode is more or less the same as the regular campaign, but you play as a succubus this time. This is nice because she doesn't have to worry about stamina, so she's a lot faster. And supposedly, some of the levels are remixed a little. I say supposedly because I couldn't get very far. I got the 2 hearts that I needed for the first puzzle, but I guess that's not the solution this time. I didn't really care to figure this one out. The other one, called Agony mode, is a roguelite of sorts, I think. It's kind of interesting. You have to navigate a randomly generated maze, accomplish optional objectives, and look for secrets to boost your score. But if you die once, then it's game over. Unfortunately, Agony mode has its own minimap that looks stupid as hell. I don't get it. The main game's minimap is fine, so I don't know what happened here. Even if everything's randomly generated, they could have figured something out. Conceptually, these 2 extra modes are fine, but that doesn't mean much because Agony as a whole is boring to play. It's too slow, too easy to die, so you're constantly going back and relying on trial and error. Too easy to get lost unless you're abusing the pathfinding ability, which feels like cheating. And the controls just feel wrong. I could tell within 5 minutes that this was not going to be a good time, but I never expected the game to turn out as poorly as it did. The environments could have been cool to explore if the game didn't constantly punish you for going off the beaten path, But dying and retracing my steps became so frequent that it got on my nerves and I had enough. The only thing that keeps this from being bottom of the barrel abysmal is the fact that the setting is kind of cool. Despite taking place in hell, 100% of the game isn't entirely fire and brimstone. There's a surprising amount of variety in the areas you explore. There's not so much variety in the enemies, but you take what you can get. But again, the game is so bad that it doesn't matter. There's not a whole lot here that can possibly save it, aside from tossing the whole project and starting again from scratch. If, for whatever reason, you simply must play Agony, be it for the boobs or the setting or whatever reason, then don't make the same mistake I did and play on hard mode. Play it on normal and stick to the main objectives. Get it over with quickly, and hopefully it doesn't turn out as bad of an experience for you as it did for me. But better yet, don't play it at all. I mean, look at this. Does this look like a professional production to you? Thanks for watching my review on Agony. I'm not kidding, man. This one was a rough one for me to get through.